Today, we're diving into some of the earliest ideas about how life began. These ancient theories each offer a unique perspective, from special creation to spontaneous generation, and even the idea that life arrived from space. Together, they set the stage for how humanity has tried to understand the origin of life through the ages. Let's explore these fascinating concepts. Let's start by exploring the origin of life, how the very first living systems appeared on early Earth. Back in the day, ideas about life's beginnings were mostly shaped by religion, philosophy, and what people observed in nature. But as science advanced, these ideas shifted. Researchers began to rely more on experiments and solid evidence to understand how primitive cells and organic molecules self-organized from non-living matter. This slide sets the stage for that journey. Let's talk about the idea of special creation. This view holds that life wasn't just a random accident, it was created by a supernatural or divine force. Organisms were thought to appear in their essential forms, fully formed. This concept comes mainly from religious and philosophical traditions, but from a scientific standpoint, it hits a wall. It doesn't offer a testable explanation for how life began. It's more about belief than evidence. Let's explore the Cosmozoic Theory, also known as Panspermia. This idea suggests that life didn't actually start here on Earth. Instead, it came from outer space, carried by meteorites, comets, or cosmic dust. Historically, people imagined tiny seeds or germs drifting through the cosmos, landing here to spark life. But while this shifts the origin of life beyond Earth, it doesn't fully answer where life began in the first place. It's a fascinating perspective that expands our view of life's beginnings. Let's talk about directed panspermia, the idea that life, or its building blocks, might be intentionally carried by an advanced civilization to another planet. This isn't about how life began, but rather how it could be transported across space. The concept was first seriously proposed by Francis Crick and Leslie Orgel back in 1973. While it's a fascinating hypothesis, there's no evidence yet that life on Earth was deliberately seeded in this way. It remains a speculative, but intriguing possibility. Catastrophism is an idea that dates back to the early 1800s, linked to Georges Cuvier. It suggests that Earth's history was shaped by sudden, massive events, like major catastrophes that caused rapid environmental change and mass extinctions. These events wiped out entire groups of organisms, making way for new life to emerge. But it's important to remember, catastrophism explains geological change and extinction, not how life began in the first place. It's one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Let's talk about spontaneous generation, an old idea that living things could just appear from non-living matter. People once believed maggots sprang from rotting meat, or tiny creatures emerged from stagnant water. Aristotle, one of history's great thinkers, supported this view. But over time, careful experiments showed otherwise. Life comes from life, not just decay or moisture. This shift laid the groundwork for modern biology and our understanding of how organisms truly arise. Let's look at an experiment from 1668 by Francesco Redi that challenged a popular idea of the time. He used 3 jars with meat, one open, one sealed, and one covered with gauze. Flies could reach the meat in the open jar, but not in the gauze-covered one. Maggots appeared only where flies could lay eggs. This showed that maggots didn't just spontaneously appear from meat. They came from flies. It was a key step in understanding how life really begins. Let's look at Spallanzani's experiment from the 18th century. He boiled nutrient broth and then sealed some flasks tightly. The sealed flasks stayed clear, no microbial growth. Meanwhile, the open flasks quickly showed signs of life. Critics said sealing the flask removed a vital life force, but later studies addressed that. This experiment was a big step forward, challenging the idea that microorganisms could just appear out of nowhere. It helped push science toward understanding how life really spreads. Pasteur's experiment used a clever tool, the Swan-Neck flask. He boiled nutrient broth inside it, killing any existing microbes. The flask's curved neck let air in, but trapped dust and microorganisms before they could reach the broth. As long as the neck stayed intact, the broth stayed clear, no growth. But if the neck broke or the broth touched trapped dust, microbes grew. This showed that life didn't just appear spontaneously, it came from other microorganisms in the environment. Let's dive into the theory of biogenesis. It tells us that life comes from life. New organisms arise from pre-existing ones. This idea replaced the old notion of spontaneous generation, which suggested life could just appear out of nowhere. For example, cells come from other cells, and bacteria reproduce from bacteria when conditions are right. But it's important to remember biogenesis explains how life reproduces today, not how life first began on early Earth. On this slide, we're looking at different theories about how life begins and changes. First, biogenesis, the idea that life comes from existing life. Then, spontaneous generation, which suggests life can arise from non-living matter. Catastrophism points to sudden disasters shaping life and the Earth. Directed Panspermia imagines life intentionally seeded from space. Cosmozoic theory says life or its seeds arrive naturally from the cosmos. Finally, special creation attributes life to supernatural or divine origins. This comparison helps us see the range of ideas about life's origins. This slide takes us through the major milestones in modern origin of life research. It starts with biogenesis, the idea that life comes from existing life, championed by scientists like Redi, Spallanzani, and Pasteur. We see the shift from early beliefs in spontaneous generation to experimental challenges that disproved it. Then, alternative ideas emerge: catastrophism, directed panspermia, and the Cosmozoic Theory. Finally, special creation rounds out the historical perspectives. This flowchart helps us see how these ideas connect and evolve over time. Let's take a look at some key ideas about the origins of life. Special creation suggests life was created by a supernatural force. The Cosmozoic Theory proposes life came from beyond Earth. Directed panspermia imagines intelligent beings intentionally spreading life. Catastrophism focuses on sudden, dramatic events shaping life's history. Spontaneous generation was the old belief that life could arise from non-living matter, but experiments by Redi, Spallanzani, and Pasteur disproved this. Instead, biogenesis tells us life comes from existing life. These are important points to keep in mind. To wrap up, this flowchart takes us through the big milestones in how we've understood life's beginnings, from ancient beliefs and special creation, through ideas like spontaneous generation and cosmic origins, to the experiments that challenged those views. Finally, it leads us to modern research and the concept of biogenesis, showing how our knowledge has evolved step by step. This video was created with SlideSpeak. Visit SlideSpeak to turn your presentations into engaging AI-narrated videos.